Oi. Settle down. Settle down.
Olá, boa tarde a todos. Eu sou Roberto Nedelciu, sou presidente da Brastoa. E primeiro quero falar boa tarde a todos aqui do Brasil. Boa noite aos que estão nos ouvindo da Europa. Eu sei que tem muitas pessoas ouvindo a gente da Europa. Eu sei que eu vi negócio de Londres e a semana passada nós tínhamos até da Bielorrússia falando. E também queria falar bom dia para o professor Ian, que ele está na Nova Zelândia. Ele está a 15 horas na nossa frente. Para ele já é sábado de manhã. E nós estamos aqui conversando com ele. Então, isso até nos leva a refletir, né? Quem pôde acompanhar, um ano atrás eu estava assumindo a presidência da Brastoa. E lá eu usei uma palavra que foi até interessante, eu falei que cada vez que uma pessoa fala disrupção ou disruptura, as outras veem ele uma semana mais jovem. Então, eu ia usar bastante essa palavra durante esse ano que vinha. Mas eu não esperava, não sou vidente nem nada, eu não esperava que a disruptura ia vir tão rápido. Dizem que no Brasil tudo acontece depois do carnaval. Inclusive a pandemia aconteceu depois do carnaval. E logo depois, nós estávamos quase que todos, nós tivemos o primeiro caso de coronavírus logo depois, na quarta-feira, dia 26 de fevereiro. E depois começou um trabalho, nós se mobilizamos muito rápido e veio essa novidade que nós estamos, que está disruptando todo mundo. Então, todos nós agora estamos numa nova realidade, uma nova situação, e nós temos que entender o que está acontecendo, ou tentar entender o que está acontecendo, para poder levar isso da melhor forma possível. Então, hoje nós temos aqui um grande especialista, que é o professor Ian, a Jaqueline, que é a nossa parceira da LEDS e da Amplia Mundo, e da Universidade de Brasília também, vai fazer apresentações. Então, agora eu deixo com você, Jaque, por favor, assume e toca para frente. Depois, no final, eu volto para as perguntas. Obrigado.
Muito obrigada, Roberto. Uma boa tarde a todos e um bom dia especial ao professor Yeoman, que está lá na capital da Nova Zelândia, em Wellington, conversando conosco. É um prazer darmos continuidade à nossa parceria com a Brastoa. Então, em nome dos meus colegas, professores e pesquisadores na Universidade de Brasília, no Laboratório de Estudos em Turismo e Sustentabilidade, e também de toda a minha equipe na Amplia Mundo, nosso muito obrigada. Nós chegamos hoje ao 5º e último webinar dessa série, mas isso não significa que o projeto e a parceria vai acabar e a Brastoa em breve anuncia novidades por aí. Nesse período de maio, foram 5 encontros abertos, além dos reservados aos associados da Brastoa. Nós criamos um espaço muito rico de reflexão, com profissionais brilhantes que estiveram conosco durante todo o mês de maio. Aliás, alguns deles até estão aqui hoje nos acompanhando, começaram a série conosco, terminam a série conosco. Oi, Cristiana, David, Renato, Mariana, sejam todos aqui bem-vindos na continuidade dos nossos debates. Com eles, nós discutimos negócios, criatividade, comunicação, imagem, big data, tecnologias e hoje nós temos a honra de contar com um dos mais reconhecidos profissionais em planejamento de cenários futuros em viagens e turismo no mundo. E hoje também contamos com a parceria da Panrotas para a transmissão online no portal e também no seu canal de Facebook e contamos com a presença do Artur Andrade, o editor-chefe da Panrotas, que nos acompanha no debate. Artur, seja muito bem-vindo, é um prazer aqui contar contigo no nosso debate. E antes de eu convidar o professor Yeoman para começar a conversa conosco, a apresentação dele é super rica, muito rica, eu vou fazer 3 recadinhos aqui. O primeiro deles é que eu vou lançar uma enquete online para a gente se conhecer melhor. E nessa enquete são 3 perguntas rapidinhas, eu vou lançar elas agora para a gente não perder mais tempo. E eu peço que quem tá nos acompanhando aqui no Zoom, que por favor venha até a tela e responda. Acredito que quem nos acompanha no YouTube da Brastoa ou nos portais da Panrotas não conseguem fazer essa resposta, mas eu peço aqui a participação de quem está no Zoom para a gente se conhecer um pouquinho melhor, principalmente o professor Yeoman, para nos acompanhar aqui. E enquanto as perguntas estão aqui abertas, eu vou fazer uma explicação sobre a tradução simultânea, que é uma novidade que a gente traz hoje. Então, quem está no Zoom, a opção é o seguinte, logo aqui embaixo na barra inferior, existe um globinho em que tem 3 opções ou 2 opções para vocês, talvez, de línguas. Então, está escrito ali PT para português e NEN para inglês. Vocês fiquem à vontade para escolher qual é a língua que vocês querem acompanhar. Nós, os brasileiros, nós vamos falar em português e o professor Yeoman, claro, vai falar em inglês e as perguntas podem chegar das 2 formas, não há nenhum problema, tá? Um outro recado, enquanto as perguntas aqui ainda estão também circulando, obrigada pela participação, já estamos com 63% de respostas. Eu vou pedir uma atenção para vocês, para agradecer pela parceria da Coletivo Intérpretes, que gentilmente fez esse acordo conosco e estão aqui oferecendo a sua habilidade para que o conhecimento do professor Yeoman possa chegar a mais pessoas hoje. Então, a Flávia e a Cecília, que são as intérpretes que nos acompanham hoje, muito obrigada a elas. Elas voltam também, antes de eu encerrar aqui, eu vou dizer que elas voltam no final do nosso webinar para apresentar a empresa, principalmente agora que o nosso mundo foi para o Zoom, né? E muita gente pode também estar pensando em fazer eventos internacionais. Elas voltam para se apresentar no final do webinar, de como é que funciona esse serviço de tradução simultânea via plataforma Zoom. Eu já vou encerrando aqui a enquete, já temos 80% de respostas. Muito bom, muito obrigada a todos que responderam. E vou compartilhar aqui com o professor. Professor, nós temos então, a nossa audiência está mais ou menos assim. 63% na região sudeste do Brasil, onde estão principalmente os estados de São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Minas Gerais e Espírito Santo. Logo em seguida, nós temos a região sul, que é o extremo sul do Brasil, mais próximo da Argentina. Depois, em terceiro lugar, nós temos a região nordeste, que fica principalmente conhecida também pela nossa área mais tropical, por praias maravilhosas, mas não só, uma cultura riquíssima, gastronomia maravilhosa. Nós temos 4% das pessoas que também nos acompanham do exterior, a gente não perguntou o país, mas deve ser de vários, e temos também 7% das pessoas que acompanham da região central do Brasil, inclusive eu, aqui de Brasília, e 1% da região norte, professor, que é toda a região da Amazônia. Depois nós temos 51% do público de agências e operadoras, nós temos 15% do público de universidades e pesquisadores, nossos colegas da academia, temos 9% de representantes de governos e de destinos turísticos, temos 5% de guias de turismo, 3% de meios de hospedagem e depois um público diverso, variado entre gastronomia, cruzeiros e outros. E por fim, a nossa pergunta principal sobre a familiaridade das pessoas com o tema de planejamento de cenários de futuros. Então, nós temos 63% da nossa audiência tem alguma familiaridade, mas quer conhecer mais. 19% da nossa audiência tem boa familiaridade ou bastante familiaridade e também 19% não tem nenhuma familiaridade. Então, a gente está com um público aqui bastante diverso. Muito obrigada a todos que responderam e vamos então passar para a apresentação do professor. O Dr. Yeoman, o Dr. Ian Yeoman, ele é futurologista, especializado em planejamento de cenários de futuros em viagens e turismo. Ele já trabalhou no Visit Scotland, onde ele estabeleceu os processos de pensar no futuro, usando aí uma variedade de técnicas, incluindo modelos econométricos, análises de tendências e construção de cenários. Atualmente, ele é professor na Victoria University of Wellington, na capital da Nova Zelândia, e também é pesquisador no Instituto Europeu de Futuros em Turismo, na Holanda. Ele é conferencista internacional e autor de vários livros e artigos. E o último livro dele foi publicado em janeiro desse ano pela Channelview Publications e ainda só está disponível em português e é o Futuro Passado do Turismo, Perspectivas Históricas e Evoluções Futuras. Esse livro aqui, os alunos que me acompanham na Universidade de Brasília, meus alunos, terão aula sobre esse livro aqui assim que nós retornarmos. E além disso, ele também é um dos únicos torcedores do Sunderland Football Club na Escócia, a cidade natal dele, atualmente baseado na Nova Zelândia. Professor, é uma honra para a gente recebê-lo aqui hoje conosco e muito obrigada pela sua contribuição e passo a palavra ao senhor.
Good morning, good afternoon, bon chiri or partage. So depending on where you are in the world, I welcome this global audience, and it's a pleasure to talk to the Brazilian tourism industry here from New Zealand. I wish it was under better circumstances because COVID-19 has affected everybody across the world, and there's no industry that has escaped. So today I'm going to talk about scenarios for global tourism in a post-COVID ID world. So, and I think if you look on the first slide, this headline says it all. World tourism faces the worst crisis since records began. I think there's no nation across the world that hasn't been affected. There's no sector that hasn't been affected. And there's key questions about what is the future of tourism, how we will recover, and what the future of tourism would look like but beyond the present state. So I've constructed 4 scenarios set in 2025, which represent different options, different predictions, different worlds. What I'm going to talk about today is what is not what's going to happen, but it's for you to ponder and to think about and reflect within your context and within Brazil, across the world, and within your business. This was the email or the news release that came from the World Tourism Organization on the 7th of May. And when you've been reading UNWTO reports for the last years, the only thing that's happened has been economic growth. Tourism has seen dramatic growth. In 1950, we saw 25 million international arrivals globally. Now we see, in 2019, 1.4 billion international arrivals. And for the UNWTO to say that in 2020 and 2021, we're going to see an 80% reduction in international arrivals as the minimum is a dramatic forecast, and it's unprecedented in news releases and the world of tourism. However, global pandemics, epidemics, flus are nothing new. In the last 5 or 6 years, the conversation about the future has been focused on one thing, that is climate change and sustainability. Destinations, businesses have put this strategy right at the forefront of their future. All of the conversations were focused on that. So the impact of COVID-19 to many was a black swan. And a black swan is an unpredictable event, something we didn't foresee. It was actually, we just weren't looking for it. If you talk to many medical experts, those involved in public health, they would have said to you, this was coming. Because as you see from this chart, we've had swine flu, we've had SARS, we've had Ebola, we've had MERS, we've had the Hong Kong flu, we've had avian flu, and all of these have been mutations of viruses that have come forward. If you look in the medical literature on public health, all of the predictions were there. So to many, it's a black swan. We just didn't see it. And from my personal perspective, way back in 2005 and 2006, I wrote a research paper whilst I was the scenario planner at Visit Scotland, which was published in the prestigious journal Tourism Management, which predicted this exact thing. In this paper, if you'd read this paper and just took out the word Scotland and put in the word Brazil, it's actually a story of what's unfolding within Brazil today and globally. So it's about what we see and what we want to see, and whether we've taken a view of the future, which is very narrow, or should we take a view of the future that's very wide, where we look for more bigger external shocks in taking this forward. So what next? What I'm going to talk about first of all is what's the old way and what's the new way. I'm going to talk about, first of all, before I go into the scenarios, about how consumer behavior and how tourism is going to change in this new world and this new order as we go forward to 2025. What are some of the trends we will leave behind? What are some of the trends which will be accelerated? What will be some of the trends that will slow down? So this is a trend evaluation chart. It basically says what trends will be dominant, what trends will advance, what trends will be arrested or completely stop, and what trends will slow down. So it just gives you a perspective of some of the trends to focus on from a business and destination perspective going forward to 2025, because COVID-19 has presented a new normal, a new world, a new perspective of what business is. Consumers and tourists are changing in the terms of their outlook, and it's going to continue over the next couple of years. So to start, what are the trends that have been arrested? These are some of the trends that have slowed down. They haven't stopped, but they've slowed down. There's two I draw out. One is extreme experience seeking. For example, in New Zealand, from an international tourism perspective, we encourage those international tourists to come here because they're high spenders. They tend to buy the high ticket items. So from a New Zealand perspective, it's all about bungee jumping in Queenstown, where a bungee jumping experience is 200 to 400 New Zealand dollars. That type of more exotic experience, where consumers have high levels of disposable income, dramatically stops, dramatically changes, because the focus becomes more on simplicity and thrift, and that becomes the opportunity. Another change we will see is in a world prior to post-COVID-19, we lived in a world of populism and fake news. We lived in a world where governments where we ridiculed governments, whether it's at local level or at national level. We didn't really listen to what they were saying. In a post-COVID-19 perspective, consumers tend to listen to government because they're looking for leadership and authority. So, for example, in New Zealand at the moment, Jacinda Ardern, our Prime Minister, is seen as the leader of the free world. Her status has grown dramatically. So it's very important for industry bodies like tourism associations to show leadership, to show direction, to show the best way forward, because we're living in a world where it's lost of small, medium enterprises, or what we call SMEs, which are lost. They need some sort of direction and focus. So it's very important for the industry to come together in one voice to show direction and in the terms of strategy. So that's about the decline of deference. Some of the slow trends that we are going to see, because tourism is fundamentally about disposable income. And we've seen across the world the rise in unemployment, severe economic recessions coming forward. So as a consequence, trends slow down to the point that they'll stop. One concept that fundamentally changes is materialism. materialistic spending. Materialistic spending, this is about tourists or consumers showing off high-value brands. It's all about designer handbags. It's all about Ferrari cars. Well, actually, when you have severe economic downturn, it's the opposite. We tend to change our behavior completely and move from individualism to more about collectivism and caring for those around us in the terms of connection. So there's opportunity within tourism for that. For example, the role of volunteering and the role of tourism from a social perspective, the role of tourism for the betterment of society, the role of tourism for the betterment of others is really important, and about what we can do for others in the terms of that. The other thing that goes hand in hand, green consumerism is contested. And I'm not talking about the trend for sustainability or climate change. What I'm talking about is the connection between sustainability and ecotourism, the high value concepts, the ecotourism resorts, which are 4- and 5-star resorts. They're going to take a big hit because of expenditure. However, at the same time, when you have an economic downturn, there is opportunity. Trends shift and behaviors change. So examples. So what we have are what we call dominant trends. Dominant trends are things like connecting with roots. When you have an economic recession, the most important things in our lives are family and friends. We want to reconnect with them. We want to be with them. So if you've been in lockdown for weeks and weeks and weeks, the first thing you want to do is reconnect with your friends and relatives. And the marketing or destination marketing of visiting friends and relatives is very different from marketing holidays. It's all about how can we use tourism to bring people together in the terms of emotion and trust between us. The other thing that we see is a stronger desire for simplicity, and this is about trying to get back to open spaces. This is about nature. This is about meeting locals. And it's about value-based holidays in a rural setting, getting out and about, because it's about space. Because during lockdown, we've been confined to urban destinations. There's a desire to do something very simple and something very basic. So organizations that are based on volunteerism or I'm a member, for example, in Wellington, we have a hiking club. It's organizations like that and that connection. One of the top dominant trends in a post-COVID-19 is a world of safety and hygiene. Safety and hygiene were probably low on consumers' attention span prior to, in a world before COVID-19, but now it's an everyday conversation. So destinations that are rigorous with hygiene and rigorous with safety are extremely important in the terms of that, in terms of going things. The other trend that becomes dominant is a focus on boardrooms. It's about how leaders behave in this environment. Corporate excessiveness, bad organization leadership is frowned upon, because we tend to look at those people, because it's all about empathy. Have you as a leader of your businesses got empathy with those around us? So it takes us back to what your values are, and it takes us to what corporate social responsibility is. Some of the trends that are advancing and some of the trends that where there's opportunity, I think the focus across the world in the next 2 or 3 years, and particularly in New Zealand, is the focus on staycations or the domestic market, because that is the market that will come back first in the terms of connectivity and strength. And also within that domestic market, it's focusing on particular types of groups. There's one connection in focusing on families, but there's other connections in focusing on the specialist holiday, the specialist user, like recreational fishing or photography. Those are the hobby-based activities that people want to get out and do in the terms of what you can do. The other trend that will be dominant and advances is the concept of mercurial consumption. This is where the consumer is searching for bargains. This is where the consumer is seeking out information. This is about thrift. This is about thrift. I just want to stop where I'm saying. Is there a problem with the transmission? No. Okay. Right. Okay. Other things are things like mercurial consumption. And what this is important is from a destination perspective, this is about telling the rest of the world who you are. So information about your destination is really important because consumers are searching for information. So examples and opportunities is things about the provision of content, because in particular women or the main purchasers or those that have responsible for household budgets and make family decisions about where to go, want to know that. So examples are things like what Iceland is doing or what the Faroe Islands are doing, where it's all about virtual reality, taking a camera and allowing potential tourists to explore your destination via the web. It's the soft sell. Some of the other examples of more dominant trends and our advancing trends is the role of automation in that. Because consumers are very aware of hygiene and safety, the opportunity for the advancement of automated processes which take human contact out of the process becomes more important in the terms of going forward. Other things that become more important are what I call predictive analytics. This is about web analytics or data analytics, where when you go onto the internet and you're searching for a holiday, because we have that data and we capture it, you as a destination can make recommendations of what to do. You can use predictive analytics to help sort choice for those potential tourists, for those potential consumers. Sorry, I've got the hiccups. Right. So what's next? If you take all of those trends together, how could how could global tourism unfold? And what I'm going to do now is present 4 scenarios based upon what we call resilient destinations. It's basically taking the COVID-19 crisis and asking questions, what does it mean for you in the terms of where the focus should be? So this is 4 scenarios. Basically, I'm taking 2 drivers of change and putting them at the forefront in the terms of the future. And basically, I'm asking the question, what is going to be the length and the depth of the recession? And I'm going to ask, the other thing is to ask the tourist, what is their moral dilemma? Is the focus on I and me, or is the focus on the rest of us? And that shapes the tourist behavior and the tourist decision-making process. So is the recession short and shallow, or is the recession long and deep? Is the focus on me, I, and my decisions, or is the focus on collectivism? Is the focus on we? So from that, we get 4 scenarios. And the 4 scenarios are Crazy Rich Asians. I don't know if you've seen the film. which was made in Singapore about 2 years ago, which is basically about recovery. Basically, COVID-19 is actually, it comes and it disappears, and the world gets back to normal. It's about Contagion, which is a film about collapse, and here the focus is survival of the fittest. This is about I rather than you. The third scenario is this side of paradise. COVID-19 gives us an opportunity to rethink our values, and it means rethinking tourism. And the fourth scenario is called the colony. This is a world where COVID-19 does not go away. It comes back first wave and second wave, and what does it mean? And all of those scenarios are based upon 4 films. So Crazy Rich Asians follows a Chinese-American professor who travels, and it's all about the rich in society. Contagion is Contagion, I can't pronounce it, about survival of the fittest. It's about COVID-19. Don't underestimate it. It's here. It's got a strong presence. It basically doesn't go away, and it fundamentally leads to the social disorder and breakdown. The side of paradise gives you the opportunity to rethink what tourism would be. One of the challenges of this scenario is when we go back to basics, we think about utopia and we think about what we should be. But utopian scenarios about responsible tourism are really hard because there's lots of pressures. One pressure on taking a sustainable approach, but the other pressure on recovery in the terms of jobs. I'll talk about that. And the final one is taken from a film called The Colony. It's about basically your country, your destination is a gated community. It's an island, and it's about how you manage COVID-19 with different waves. So from a tourism perspective, what are some of the signals that we associate with these scenarios? Well, there's lots of things going on. On the positive side, if Crazy Rich Asians was the scenario, there's lots of things happening. The evidence of that happening at the moment is domestic travel in China is already beginning to happen. China was the first destination to have COVID-19, and it imposed very, very strict conditions in the terms of lockdown. But they're starting to tourism has started to reopen now. It has a strong domestic market, and we've seen restaurants, museums, and attractions getting back to normal. When we've looked to other epidemics and other outbreaks of diseases like SARS, basically SARS was a blip. We had a global spread, but it wasn't as disruptive of COVID-19. And when the SARS just disappeared, tourism actually rebounded very strongly and very quickly. And on a positive perspective, the world has seen COVID-19 as a challenge, and as a consequence, we've now got vaccines at human trial stage, the early stages, and that's been unprecedented. Science has come together to try and solve the problem of COVID-19 in the terms of the amount of money governments and companies are putting in this to find a vaccine. So that gives us hope for 2021, 2022. Well, the other scenario, the survival of the fittest, well, this is happening everywhere. Dramatic fall in international arrivals globally. No country, no company has escaped. And in this world, what we've seen is countries, the rise of protectionism, the me first. In the United States, the fight in the tendering for medical supplies is going on. So it's the me first attitude. It's about me rather than the rest of you. Some of the positive things that are coming out of tourism in the terms of the side of paradise, rethinking tourism, we've seen a huge rise in support your local initiatives in the terms of supporting your local restaurants, supporting your local shops and hotels, shop local, buy local in the terms of things. And also many restaurants, for example, in the United States, many restaurants and hotels For example, many hotels in the United States have opened their doors to those that sleep on the streets to give them a bed during COVID-19. Many restaurants are supplying unused food to food banks. Many people are working with their community. So in this environment, there's a drive to rethink tourism with a focus on communities and sustainable futures. Whereas the colony is about the new norm, a new world. What would it look like if COVID-19 didn't disappear and we had several outbreaks? Well, many countries have started to make tourism plans around that. So, for example, Iceland is opened up to tourism, and anybody, you arrive, you have a test at the airport, or and within 24 hours, you get your results back. In New Zealand, we're looking at a trans-Tasman bubble. Once Australia is free from COVID-19, for us to join together. And regular systems are beginning to, and on the other side, we're starting to see, there's been a couple of parts in the world where there's been friction between locals and tourists and the issue of resources. Basically, in any tourism recovery strategy in this world is about travel plans will be scrutinized under the lens of safety in the terms of doing that. And when we had the beginning of COVID-19 here in New Zealand, there was there was a bit of a rush of the super rich coming to this island to escape because of isolation and the untouched world. So what does this mean from a tourism perspective? If COVID-19 is just a blip and it disappears at the end of 2021, we will see fast recovery. We will see flourishing visitor demand. We will see new products, but we'll basically see the consumer where we see unfettered demand. You know, I need to get out there and I need to travel. I need to do things. Sorry, bit of a cut. Whereas if we have survival of the fittest, it's basically basically tourism falls off the map. The industry disappears. We have disparity in society in the terms of successes and failures. We have society in the terms of economics of apartheid, in the terms of polarization. The middle classes have been squeezed, and we've got severe poverty and those that are rich. And it's protectionism that drives things. Keep me out. Whereas if it's the side of paradise, we have the opportunity to rethink tourism's relationship with the ecosystem. What's your utopian values? It's about a sustainable and balanced future. It's about responsibility, and it gives us the opportunity to rethink capitalism of what it could be. Or, you know, you're asking the question, if we're going back to basics, if we're going back to a blank piece of paper, what could tourism be, and what do you want it to be? What do you want it to be in the terms of rebuilding? And the final one is the colony, where COVID-19 is here, and we have to manage it. Here, the focus is on thrift and safety. The middle classes have been squeezed. They do not have the disposable income. So it's about local rather than global in the terms of markets. It's about, to a certain extent, your destination becomes a gated community. It's a society of a smart destination and a big brother society, knowing who the tourist is, where the tourists are, and the tracking of the tourism. Basically, it's a smaller economy and a focus on self-sufficiency, a focus on health and well-being, collectivism, and the re-emergence of tourism. And as those squiggly line diagrams represents, there's no clear pathway, and there's hard decisions to be made in the terms of what tourism will be like in the next 3 to 4 years, and what are the conditions that will shape tourism and where you want to take it. So what will the tourist look like? What are the tourist values in these different 4 scenarios? So in the crazy rich Asian world, this presumes the world took dramatic action to contain COVID-19, and we saw the elimination of the virus. Tourists and consumers quickly returned to destinations, and pent-up demand rose dramatically. And in this scenario, the word over-tourism comes back, rather than under-tourism is what we've got today. Well, what is this one? It's the end of tourism as we know it, except for the super rich. It's a very polarized society. And tourism is fundamentally like South Africa, where you've got economic apartheid. The side of paradise, consumer behavior we know is risk averse. And the longer the virus goes on, behaviors and attitudes change. And tourism, if it has to be repositioned, has got to be more about collective responsibility, has to be more about trust, and has to be more altruistic rather than profit-centered and capitalist-centered. It's putting communities at the center of tourism in order to build something and rebuild it. Whereas the gated community is an important feature. In this scenario, COVID-19 is a permanent feature, and governments are trying to balance regulation, economics, and health. In this scenario, COVID-19 is contained. We have a relatively stable and prosperous business environment, but the consumers are more risk averse. Their habits have changed because of the prolonged situation of COVID-19. And here it's about not marketing to consumers, but it's how destinations or tourism businesses have a degree of trust in you. So the word trust becomes extremely important in going forward. So what are some of the risks with each scenario? The risk of the crazy rich Asians is the rush to open, the desire for jobs, trying to get back to normal too quickly. That is the risk. And if you rush to reopen too quickly, COVID-19 comes back very quickly. And this is the situation what's happened in, for example, in South Korea, where they've tried to get back to normal, but only yesterday they announced that schools will close again. Basically, under this scenario, the risk is the end of tourism, the end of an industry, and a more polarized society. The side of paradise, the two threats are utopia, trying to reimagine tourism using something about using sustainability and responsibility gets tokenism. It's never achieved. We say we're going to do it, but we never get there. On the other hand, not taking the opportunity to rebuild ourselves and re-image ourselves around these concepts. And the biggest risk with the colony is about leakage, the threat of the second wave, the threat of that tourist who got off the cruise ship and has come to your destination. So the leakage in safety and hygiene, it's really important in the terms of tracking, in the terms of testing and opening up, and at what level you open up going to the future. So, if this is the future, what would be the vision? What would your vision be? What would your vision be for your destination going forward? So, if you do have a very strong recovery strategy, it's about live more, fear less. But throw your inhibitions away and let's just party, let's just spend, let's get back to what we did. And a very strong focus on recovery very quickly and living your life, what you've missed. Whereas, what's your strategy under survival of the fittest? It's about survivor. Who is the survivor? If it's about this side of paradise, it's trying to position yourself different, making your destination something about an eco-paradise, something utopian. It's around sustainability, it's around the environment, but it's a very it's very much that paradise in the terms of where it goes. And if it's about a colony, it's about trust and safety. So it's trying to position your destination as the safe cocoon. You know, if you come to your country, it's safe, it's clean, we trust you. So you're in your own, it's about a tourism bubble, a tourism cocoon. So what are the strategies? What are some of the strategies within each of these scenarios? So in Crazy Rich Asians, this is what industry wants. We want to get back to normal as quickly as possible. This is what industry wants. This scenario, survival of the fittest, is the exit strategy. It's how we leave tourism behind. We can't actually do anything in tourism in a COVID-19 world, and there's a recognition of that. There's no point in doing any marketing or destination planning while this is on, because it sends out the wrong message. We're just not a safe destination. In this side of paradise, this is what others want, and this is what some of you want. This is that utopian scenario which can maybe drive in your futures. This is what others want and what you should be, and some of you want. However, the colony, this is what you think is going to be. This is what you think is the transition scenario for your world. So how do you manage that transition and try to shape tourism over the next 3 to 4 years in the terms of what you do? So what are some of the conflicts between these scenarios? Or how do you get from A to B? What should you do? So this strategy about trying to get back to normal is about it's about strong economic growth. So, for example, what we've seen in New Zealand is a very Keynesianism approach to economic development, where the state is putting a lot of money into infrastructure, wage subsidies. We're talking about a country which is spending 8 to 16% of its GDP as an intervention process. It's unprecedented. It's never happened before. The strategy, this side of paradise, is a strategy based upon a complete redesign of tourism in the terms of going forward. Something very, very, very different. So it's a redesign. It's taking a blank piece of paper and saying we're going to be something else. What we did prior to COVID-19 is not applicable now. This is what our strategy should be. However, these two strategies are in conflict. Or balance. There's a drive, it's all about jobs, because some will argue sustainability does not feed families. So you've got this conflict between recovery, about getting back to normal, and redesign. So there's conflict between economic development or jobs versus sustainability, and it's about who has the most powerful voice in the terms of where it goes and what it should be. The strategy under the colony is a strong focus on resilience, containment, domestic tourism, regional bubbles, and safety in the terms of going forward and doing that. Whereas survival of the fittest is a focus on very, very small and narrow markets. It's a focus probably on exclusivity. It's a focus on high yield tourists. In strong gated communities, escapism. So a lot of the questions to ask is because with COVID-19, you're at different levels. There's different stages of the diseases. It's from a national planning perspective, it's if you have this dramatic survival of the fittest environment, as we start to recover, the next stage is you moving from that scenario to the colony, the gated community, and what are the decisions that you take in that world in the terms of moving from survival of the fittest to a gated communities, moving from collapse to transmission. Other questions are, okay, we're coming out, COVID-19 is starting to peter out. So what are the decisions? How do you move from that colony, that holding stage, to either that scenario of trying to rethink tourism from a paradise perspective? Or do you go back from colony to the exit strategy? Because one of the things with COVID-19, you open up, but it just comes back. So there's a lot of fluidity here. So one of the things about resilience is about strategy that's very nimble and can be responsive to change. So we live in a world of complexity. There's no clear pathway in the terms of going forward. One of the advantages of doing scenarios, it tries to help you make sense of the situation. So one of my advice is to look at complexity from a scenario planning perspective, and basically using this type of resilience framework, which I have used. So looking at what is the nature of change and what is the speed of change. And you can construct 4 scenarios, one about revival, one about recovery, one about transformation, and one about transition. And you can then ask, okay, what would tourism look like in this world, or this world, and what are the different decisions we'd make? And also, what would be the decisions we would make from a tourism perspective if we moved in between scenarios? And that's very important in the terms of resilience and decision making. I'm a champion of scenario planning, and you're living in this world of COVID-19. Once COVID-19 goes away, we just can't ask the question, oh, we're back to normal. It's very important from a destination perspective to think about multiple futures, to think about scenarios, because COVID-19 has changed what you are radically, and there may be further change going forward. So in the terms of policy making and research, it's very important to have some sort of scenario perspective, an environmental scanning perspective. These are the trends, the drivers, the shocks that are happening in the world. And also to be able to model and measure and understand impact of those drivers and those shocks and those scenarios. And we call that the process of future proofing. And that becomes a framework. So COVID-19, or the threat of COVID-19, or other external shocks, or understanding the changing process, you're aware of that and you can manage that. So that's me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor. What a class. What a lot of insights and inspiration. To start with our debate, but then to think and digest and consider how to include some of that in our thinking here in Brazil throughout the trade, the partners, the government, and players involved in tourism planning. Thank you so much. And I will invite Roberto. Desculpa, eu tenho que falar em português. Me desculpa. Eu vou convidar o Roberto e o Artur para nos acompanhar aqui no debate agora. Professor, então agora a gente volta a falar português? Acho que está tudo bem com a tradução aí, né?
Yes, it's clear.
Tá ótimo. Então eu vou só reforçar que as perguntas podem chegar em português ou em inglês, não tem problema, as duas são válidas e são muito bem-vindas. Para começar o nosso debate, eu vou convidar o Roberto para começar aqui com o diálogo.
Bom, professor, nossa, eu estou com a cabeça fervendo de tanta informação e tanta possibilidade que a gente tem no futuro. Mas, no seu livro, que foi publicado recentemente, né, o The Future of the Passenger Tourism, o senhor argumenta que no século XX nós tivemos grandes crises. Nós tivemos guerras mundiais, nós tivemos a gripe espanhola e houve recuperações. Nós tivemos países que foram totalmente quase destruídos, como a Alemanha, como o Japão, e hoje são economias muito fortes, né? Então eles tiveram uma retomada econômica muito forte, uma retomada tecnológica muito grande, e também tiveram um aumento de turismo. O senhor acredita que nesse momento, após terminar essa pandemia do corona e a partir da hora que as pessoas se sentirem seguras, nós vamos ter esse crescimento no turismo e complementando. E qual que é o papel? Qual vai ser o papel fundamental das agências de turismo, das operadoras nesse crescimento do turismo, se houver?
I think that's right. And I think if I pulled out a curve graph of tourism in 1950, globally, it was 25 million international arrivals. And today it's well, in 2019, it was 1.4 billion international arrivals. So 1950 to 1920s, 70 to 80 years, it's a more longer perspective. And as a consequence, the world has had lots of shocks. So tourism will recover because tourism rebounds very strongly. If you looked at the Spanish flu in 1918, Spanish flu in 1918 spread around the world as soldiers fighting in Europe returned to their countries. And Spanish flu petered out and disappeared. It took 2 to 3 years, and basically the world got herd immunity. There was no virus. It just got herd immunity at the time. And then we went into the 1920s, and there was a rapid recovery period, and we call that the Roaring Twenties, where people went out and spent. Come 1926, 1928, we had a global depression for other reasons, not because of Spanish flu, but for reasons of economics. So tourism will respond and tourism will grow. I've got no doubt about that. So if you invite me back on the 29th, on the 29th of May, 2030, it will be a very different speech. I actually won't be doing it by Zoom. I'll be in Brazil live, and we'll be talking about a very prosperous nation, a very strong nation, because the biggest strength of Brazil in the terms of tourism is its people and the attitude towards others and the diversity of tourism products that you've got. So in 2030, tourism will be very different from what it's been today. And what we're having today is a disruptive shock. It's had a major impact on tourism flows, but it will return. As we've said, there are signals of tourism getting back to normal in China, for example. Carnival Cruise Liners is taking bookings for 2021, and some cruise ships and journeys are now full. So, so the longer term perspective is different. And, if I was to talk about global tourism in 2030, 2025, the key drivers of change are not what I'm talking about today. The biggest change in tourism long term is the restructure of populations, and that's about demography. That's about aging populations. Because today, for example, we've got to ask where levels of disposable income will be. It's about the number of people that are young, the number of people that are old. So if you were asking me to talk about what will the world look like in 2030, 2040, 2050, it's a very different set of scenario sets. And demography links to economics, and that's the biggest driver for that long-term change in the terms of that.
Thank you so much.
Professor, só complementando a minha pergunta, e qual que o papel que o senhor vê dos tour operadores, das agências de viagens nessa recuperação do turismo?
I didn't get the translation for that question.
Oh, sorry. Are you on the off yet, or already on the English?
I'm on English.
Okay. Can you repeat, please, Roberto? Talvez você possa repetir, Roberto.
Yes, I can, but I didn't get the translation. Okay, that's very good. That's a very good thing. One of the things about travel agencies are real people. So the people behind a screen, or people in a shop, or that are out there. And I think what happens in a COVID-19 world and going forward, it's about that trust. It's about real people, in the terms of that connection between the tourism industry and the tourist and the travel agents. So you, as a company, and your brand and how you behave and your recommendations are extremely important, because you can bring a personal message to those tourists in the terms of going forward. So trust in the brand and the trust in the company is extremely important within this environment, in the terms of going forward. So trust is the key word.
Muito bom. Muito bom, né, Roberto? Alinhado com o que a gente vinha conversando, não era? Nos outros webinars, que a confiança entre pessoas é fundamental. Artur, posso te convidar agora para participar conosco do debate? A palavra é tua.
Claro, obrigado, Jaque. Professor, pegando esse gancho da confiança, as pessoas estão com medo, né, de viajar. E o senhor, lá no comecinho da apresentação, falou que as pessoas vão buscar mais simplicidade, vão buscar viagens mais ligadas ao regional. Como que ficam as viagens para destinos exóticos? Acabou a busca por aventura? Acabou aquele turista que sai desbravando o mundo, experimentando todo tipo de comida? O senhor acha que isso vai mudar para um turista mais conservador, que está buscando essa segurança na padronização, por exemplo? Ou a gente vai continuar viajando para a China, para Nova Zelândia, a partir daqui do Brasil, viagens tão longe para destinos tão diferentes com a mesma cabeça?
It all depends on which scenario that you're in. So, for example, if you're in the scenario, the colony, for example, which is probably going to be the scenario that's going to be dominant for most destinations in the next 1 or 2 years, it's not about exotic destinations. It's not about faraway places. It's about local, regional. It's about safety. It's about simplicity and trust. Under that scenario, we've got the middle classes squeezed. It's all about going back to nature. It's all about staying local. So the international tourist market is restricted in the terms of that. The only travel that will occur will be between countries where you have safety and bubbles. So, for example, yesterday, Norway and Denmark announced a bubble. 16 European countries, I think it was 12 or 16 European countries have announced a bubble, or Estonia did. Until you got those levels of safety or track and trace, and more of a regional focused, that's where the tourism will be. It will not be about long haul. It will not be about exotic destinations. And actually marketing exoticness marketing exotic destinations in that scenario is just actually the wrong message to send out, because it sends out a message of, we don't care. We don't care about how the world is changing. In the terms with the consumer, the marketing, the relationship in the colony scenario for exotic destinations is trying to prepare for the crazy rich Asian scenarios. So it becomes about getting ready when you move from that colony, when the colony scenario is starting to peter out and we're trying to get back to normal, is have we got the mechanisms and can we react quickly enough to that post-COVID-19 world? Because exoticness only occurs in the crazy rich Asian scenario, predominantly.
Muito bem. Artur, posso passar adiante?
Pode.
Muita informação, né, para a gente digerir, muito bom. Professor, eu vou fazer uma pergunta, como a gente está com um público bastante variado, eu vou atingir 2 públicos aqui, que são os jovens profissionais que estão entrando no mercado, ou entraram no turismo recentemente, e também os estudantes, tanto de graduação quanto de pós-graduação, a gente tem um número razoável deles aqui. Como é que o senhor acredita que isso impacta a eles no futuro profissional, uma vez escolhida essa profissão há tão pouco tempo, né? Qual seria a perspectiva que o senhor deixa para eles?
It is. I'm in the same situation with those fellow students because I'm a professor of tourism, and we have students starting degrees in tourism and ending degrees in tourism. But there is without doubt there is an impact upon tourism. There is an oversupply of tourists. There's an oversupply of people in the hospitality and tourism sector, and those that are employed on more seasonal or temporary visas have been the first to be made redundant. National airlines have all downscaled or gone into bankruptcy, so the supply of jobs is not going to be there. But there's also opportunity there. You've got to remember, tourism is one of the most entrepreneurial industries in the world. So the opportunity for small businesses to think local and to think in the terms of diversity, in the terms of new products, in the terms of new experiences, and to be able to react to that is also an opportunity in things to do. But there's also thinking about taking your tourism product and your tourism experience and trying to make it safe. And there's been many examples of that across the world. So, yep, I've got no bright answers for those students that are about to leave with a degree, because there's going to be a degree of unemployment and there's going to be a degree of change. But students doing a tourism degree should think about what are the skills that they've learned in the terms of the ability to solve problems, make decisions in the terms of communication in a more immediate world. But we also have to think about the tourism industry will probably be back to normal within 2 to 3 years. So those that are embarking probably on a tourism degree now, 3 years at university, will probably be okay. Or those that are young enough to get that. So there is going to be disruption. There is an opportunity to rethink, and there's an opportunity for graduates with different skills to think about what is the opportunity within a crisis.
Perfeito, muito obrigada. Arthur, quer voltar para alguma pergunta do portal por aí, ou a gente segue aqui no Q&A?
Tenho aqui uma pergunta do Marcelo Araújo. Ele quer saber se depois que passar a pandemia, se vai ver um estigma de alguns países pela forma como eles trataram a pandemia, ou os resultados dessas ações que eles tomaram, se pode haver proibições de alguns turistas desses países para visitar outros. Como que o senhor vê isso? A imagem dos países que souberam lidar melhor com a pandemia.
I think that's a possibility. And I think there's been issues with, for example, Brand America and Brand USA at the moment in the terms of international visitors to that country from certain countries have not wanted to go there in the last 3 or 4 years because the attitudes and the values are not quite right. So that is a possibility. But I think that'll just be for some tourists, not for all tourists in the terms of that, because once we start to come out of post-COVID-19, the biggest driver will probably be price and value. So it's how the tourist plays off value against the destination brand, because across the world, all destinations have a value system. All destinations have a brand that they promote, but that brand does not. It's only for some tourists. It's not for all tourists. So there still will be different markets in the terms of in the terms of fitting in with that. And I think some of the issues around relationships, about tourists not wanting to come to this country or that country, that's probably in the hands of, it's politics. So country A may ban people from country B and country C. We've just got to look at the political infighting between the United States and China at the moment. It's not about people, it's about politics. And we may have a new president in the United States in November, or we may have the same president for another 4 years. It's about global politics. It's about politics within the country, rather than what the country's all about.
Perfeito. Roberto, posso passar para você, adicionar alguma pergunta, algum comentário? Ou passo aqui para o Q&A?
Não, pode passar para o Q&A.
Tá ótimo, a gente está cheio de pergunta aqui. Professora, eu também gostaria de dizer que nós tivemos mais de 600 pessoas nos acompanhando, ainda temos um número muito alto de pessoas aqui, tem quase 400 aqui na sala conosco e mais nos canais online de pessoas que nos acompanham. Então, muito obrigada a todos, inclusive recados de pessoas que estão em Londres, em Portugal, na Argentina. Muito obrigada a todos. Eu vou passar adiante, professor, e vou fazer uma pergunta engatada com esse tema que o senhor trouxe da promoção, porque tem várias perguntas nesse sentido, sobretudo no âmbito internacional. Como é que o senhor vê a eficácia de campanhas ou de formas de fazer promoção internacional nesse momento e como é que elas devem se transformar perante o que vem adiante?
Well, I think it all depends on which scenario you're in. So the scenario that's predominantly dominant and what most destinations are working within is that colony concept. And what we've seen there in the terms of promotion from many destinations within that scenario is about promotion campaigns have been very subtle. Promotion campaigns are about trying to reconnect with the place. Promotional campaigns have been about open spaces and about the focus on people and friends. It hasn't been things that about exoticness, materialism. It's been very simple messages about come and reconnect. It's been very, very soft sell, and it's about trust. It's been going back to trust, and that's been right at the heart of things.
Perfeito, muito obrigada. Eu vou fazer uma outra pergunta e depois volto aqui para o Artur para a gente interagir com o Portal Panrotas também, que é no sentido do green consumerism, a consumismo verde, que o senhor colocou ali. O senhor pode elaborar um pouquinho mais essa questão, porque acho que ficou muito bem explicado que é no contexto da pandemia, mas como que o senhor vê isso adiante?
I think one of the trends I've talked about is about when you're in a COVID-19 situation. I talked about green consumerism actually slowing down, and this is about levels of disposable income. Consumers are going to make a choice between value and price over betterment for the planet. They're making a conscious. It's what we can afford and what we can afford to do. So there's two implications for this. Where destinations are about high value, and for example, in New Zealand, we have many destinations and places or hotels that what we call eco destinations, but these are right at the top end. That in the terms of prices, they're very 5-star. What we've seen with those places, because we haven't got the international tourist, their occupancy levels have dramatically fallen, and because there's a difference between what an international tourist will pay and what a domestic tourist will pay in the terms of price sensitivity and how much they're willing to pay for an object. So very much 5-star destinations that have promoted themselves on sustainability have had to dramatically reduce their prices for that domestic market. So where you're positioned in the terms of high value from a sustainability perspective, those destinations will not work. Where we've seen from a green consumerism is it's been more about simple products. It's been a stronger reconnection with nature. it's been about walking, it's been about hiking, it's been about very simple eco products which do not have a high price to them. But that's been shaped by consumers who do not have confidence in the marketplace because of the threat of redundancy in the job market. Many businesses have they've asked employees to take pay cuts of around 20%, those that are in jobs. So we're more conservative in our outlook, and we're more thrifty, and it's about mercurial consumption as a key driver.
Muito bom, muito obrigada. Artur, tá com pergunta aí?
Estou com várias aqui, mas eu acho que a pergunta que todo mundo quer saber antes de eu fazer a pergunta que eu tenho aqui é em que cenário que o senhor mais acredita?
Aliás, professor, depois que nós conversamos ontem, eu coloquei aqui uma enquete, se o senhor quiser soltar, sobre os cenários.
Yep. Yes, please. Yep, please.
Quer? Posso?
Yep.
Então, ótimo.
Vamos soltar antes para ver se todo mundo concorda com ele, é isso?
Exatamente. Ó, eu vou soltar aqui, então, quem está no Zoom vai poder votar para a gente. Como é que é a sua perspectiva, o que mais lhe parece provável diante dos 4 cenários que o professor colocou?
Quer que eu vá fazendo outra pergunta enquanto isso?
Ah, boa. Tava rapidinho aqui, Artur.
É?
Tá rapidinho aqui, ó. E a resposta tá bastante disparada aqui para um deles.
O pessoal está empolgado. Quer saber a resposta rápida.
Exato.
Qual você
pessoal,
votou, Roberto?
Voto é secreto.
Olha, pois eu votei no 1, eu abro meu voto.
Então tá, pessoal, já estamos chegando aqui, ó, passando de 60%. Então vou encerrando aqui, ó. Ah, não tem gente votando ainda. Vamos lá. Rapidinho. Vou encerrar, então. Perfeito, 70% dos votos. Aqui, professor, temos, de acordo com a nossa audiência, 46% pensando no Paradise.
Uau!
Rethinking Our Tourism. 34% pensando na colônia. 11% pensando nos asiáticos podres de ricos. E 10% pensando no contágio. Então, tá aqui o nosso resultado, professor.
My opinion is, I think the dominant scenario in the next 3 to 4 years will be the colony. That would be the one that will be around for global tourism. And the key question is how do you get from the colony to another scenario? The key decision is how do you go from, if you're putting a focus on economic growth, it's all about crazy rich Asians. If you want to move from the colony to something about a new vision, it's all about it's all about a paradise, and at the same time it's about preparing for a backward step in the terms of survival of the fittest. So I think the dominant one will be the colony, and that's what I think we'll be working with. What many destinations will be working with, because COVID-19, different destinations will be in a different scenario at different stages. But I think global tourism will not get back to normal for, we're talking 3 to 4 years, because of the impact from an economic perspective of what's happened.
Ian, uma pergunta em relação a esse tema ainda é sobre, e dentro do cenário The Colony me parece o mais adequado mesmo, que é em relação aos protocolos de segurança que estão sendo criados e implementados por países, destinos, de formas diferentes, inclusive. O senhor vê essa realidade sendo uma necessidade generalizada? Como é que o senhor vê a questão dos protocolos e dos selos nesse cenário que o senhor avalia mais provável?
Yes, it is, but there's lots of things we can do. There's the safety protocols are really important because of issues of transmission and because of issues of transmission. But there's other things we can have in the terms of innovation. For example, there's in Paris, one of the big things has been one of the issues from a safety perspective is, people around Paris or the parts of the city want to get around by bicycle, and you can hire a bicycle. But one of the rent a bike schemes in the city of Paris has teamed up with a nanotechnology company, and they've coated all of the bicycle handles and the places where people touch, and they've put a new surface onto all of these bicycles which cleans the bicycle automatically and gets rid of COVID-19, and it's quite a wondrous type of thing. So and the bicycle company has then promoted what they're doing. So within this world, they've put health and safety of the consumer first. They put the health and safety of the consumer first, in order to have that brand of safety in the terms of going forward. Because otherwise, their model of business would have just collapsed. But they've been able to prove things or do something where using nanotechnologies to it's basically a self-clean type of thing where COVID-19 doesn't survive on the surface, and it's quite innovative in what they've done.
Artur, deixa eu responder sua pergunta. Vai, Artur. Eu não quis falar antes, eu queria ver a resposta do Ian, tá? Na realidade, eu votaria em 2 quadrantes. Eu acho que a gente começa com a colônia, com viagens mais regionais, viagens assim no raio menor, ainda mais locais aqui no Brasil. Mas eu acho que a curto prazo as pessoas vão querer fazer viagens mais longas, ter novas experiências. Então você vai fazer uma linha entre a colônia e os podres de rico. Eu acho que eu quase colocaria no meio dos dois lá.
É isso aí.
Muito bom comentário.
Posso fazer aquela pergunta lá que eu estava...
Por favor, Artur, posso só fazer um comentário antes de você fazer a pergunta? A gente tem um compromisso de tempo aqui do nosso webinar e a gente não pode se estender tanto, a gente já está aqui com mais de 1h20 de conversa. Então, a gente encerra aqui às 6h30, agora são 6h23. Então, Artur, vamos fazer mais uma pergunta sua, a gente passa por... tem mais uma pergunta aqui que está com bastante comentários, depois a gente passa para o encerramento. Pode ser? Pode ser, Ian? Então, vamos lá, Artur.
Vou tentar juntar 2 em uma que chegaram aqui. O senhor faz previsões para até 2050, o senhor falou que quer voltar em 2030 para falar com a gente, como que vai estar o turismo. Olhando para frente na evolução do turismo, e o senhor falou de estudantes agora há pouco, né? Que profissionais que o turismo vai precisar, ou que habilidades que esse novo turismo vai precisar, e paralelamente, essas mudanças geralmente a gente imagina elas são geradas por grandes empresas, grandes investimentos, governos. Qual o papel da pequena empresa, que a gente tem muitas assistindo a gente aqui agora, o senhor mesmo falou da importância do local. Então, que habilidades esse profissional do futuro tem que ter e qual o papel das pequenas empresas nas transformações?
If I'm talking about students and skills, I think if we're talking about skills and students and what becomes focus, to me, if we're looking at supervisors and management, the skills quite obvious. In this new world, in the terms of being nimble and being flexible, it's the ability to make decisions, and it's the ability to solve problems in the terms of doing things. That becomes really, really important in the terms of going forward. The other skills that become important about forward, it becomes a focus on the soft skills. It's the people skills. It's the ability to interact and a more human face in the terms of going forward. The other skills that become more important in a COVID-19, the importance of understanding business to be the accountant, to be the economist, the ability to understand just basic things around profit and loss. So they become the skills that are important, things that are very human orientated, and a stronger focus on business skills. So they're the skills that become very important from that perspective. What was the second question, please?
Which will be the role of the small businesses?
Well, I think the role of small businesses becomes, it's extremely important. Fundamentally, tourism is about SMEs, small to medium enterprises, and that's the world globally. I think the key thing for SMEs is about how, in the next 2 years, how do they survive? Because they haven't got the protectionism of the big corporations. But at the same time, those businesses are those that can be nimble and can adapt to change when the market starts to return in the terms of opportunity. But most immediately, it's about survival, because many SMEs are one person or two people, and what we've seen with COVID-19, that basically the cash flow has stopped. And how do I feed family? How do I pay employees? So one, it's about survival, and then it's about reimagination.
Thank you.
Muito bom, eu vou passar para a última pergunta aqui, então a gente já encerra. Professor, tem muitas perguntas falando sobre a transição de cenários e como isso se dá. Então, o senhor mesmo comentou, né, uma transição aí em alguns anos, 3 ou 4 anos, etc. Qual é o papel dos líderes de governos e líderes do setor privado no processo de transição desses cenários? Inclusive porque a gente tem muitos colegas de governos.
It depends on where you are. It depends on where you are and what your government is, because it depends on the political framework and the form of government in your country. So it's very important for destinations. As I said, around the issue around deference, destinations need to provide leadership, because SMEs, for example, are in a vacuum. They can't work independently. They need a framework, and the role of destinations is to bring the businesses together with a collective framework in order to move from one scenario to another scenario. Right at the top, in the terms of, because COVID-19 it's fundamentally an issue of health, and governments are putting health. Governments, many countries across the world, are putting health first, and then it's about economics. But you need to understand what a country's pandemic plan is, and because many pandemic plans are about those four scenarios. Pandemic plans, and what does tourism mean under different stages, and how do you move from stage 1 to stage 2? And what would be the triggers or the indicators, and how you would move from stage 1 to stage 4, or back from stage 4 to stage 3. But governments and destinations need to make that very clear in the terms of how you operate at different levels. And that's what many governments and destinations and cities are doing across the world.
Muito bom. Perfeito. Eu vou passar então para umas palavras finais do Artur, do Roberto e por fim do Ian, e aí a gente vai partindo para o encerramento. Só lembro que a gente, após encerrar aqui com o Ian, a gente tem a apresentação da empresa que está fazendo a tradução simultânea para a gente, na parceria, e é muito importante para, especialmente quem trabalha com eventos, enfim, que essa pode ser uma nova ferramenta para a gente por muito e muito tempo, não é não? Então, convido a todos para ficar e ouvir, por favor, o Coletivo Intérpretes. Então, passo agora então para o Artur.
Eu queria agradecer essa parceria com a Brastoa, com a Amplia Mundo. Realmente foi muito boa a apresentação e deu vários cenários, várias possibilidades, o que mostra que depende muito da gente, depende muito da união de cada player aí do turismo. Ó, quem está dando tchau, quem chegou ali. Depende muito de cada um de nós fazer a sua parte para que a gente possa sair disso juntos. E é essa mensagem que a gente tem passado aqui na Panrotas, que somos todos turismo, e a gente está buscando unir todas essas pontas aí para sair juntos e melhores dessa crise aí. Muito obrigado.
Bom, seguindo nessa linha também, né, eu só posso agradecer a parceria de vocês, Jaque, da Amplia Mundo, da Universidade de Brasília, do Panrotas, e como a gente fala, e da coletiva também está fazendo a tradução simultânea, que nos ajudou bastante, era uma preocupação que nós tínhamos, como a gente ia resolver essa problema da língua aqui dentro e tal, né? Mas a gente acredita que é o seguinte, é uma fase que está fazendo a gente repensar, realmente, que nem eu falei, é uma disruptura do que está acontecendo nos procedimentos e tudo aquilo que nós estávamos acostumados, porque muitas vezes nós temos a tendência de ficar na inércia. A gente está vendo o problema, sabe que a coisa vai pegar, mas é muito difícil você mudar. Então, nós temos que aproveitar essa pandemia e levar para o lado humano. E ver que hoje nós estamos muito mais amigáveis, muito mais unidos, muito mais juntos e batalhando junto para conseguir superar essa fase. E tenho certeza que nós vamos superar, sim. As empresas, obviamente, vai ter alguma perda no caminho, é impossível, é muito difícil não ter, mas as empresas que sobreviverem vão estar remodeladas, com novas estruturas, com novos produtos. É a hora de a gente desenvolver, pelo menos agora no começo, o mercado brasileiro, começar a ver destinos novos, produtos novos, experiências novas que nós podemos promover aqui para os próprios brasileiros. Então, eu só gostaria de agradecer muito ao professor Ian, acho que deu uma boa visão para a gente, e falar também que nós estamos terminando a primeira temporada. Nós estamos igual a Netflix, estamos terminando a primeira, já estamos logo lançando a segunda, tá? Nós estamos já planejando a segunda temporada, então nós estamos já montando como que vai ser a partir de junho, julho, começar mais para o final, mas vai ser bastante interessante com esses assuntos para nós estamos cada vez mais integrados e usando a tecnologia para conversar e tá todo mundo junto, que nem hoje nós temos aqui, se for contar fuso horário, nós temos quase todos os fuso horários aqui tudo. Então, muito obrigado a todos. E obrigado, Ian, e obrigado, Jaque, mais uma vez.
Obrigada, Roberto. O Hugo. O Hugo está aqui conosco. Se a gente puder passar a palavra para vocês. Ok. Esse é o Hugo. Ótimo.
Esse é o Hugo.
Muito bom. Professor, contigo, então, a palavra.
Well, I just want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure to speak to everybody, and let's just share a glass of wine and some friendship, and I wish Brazil, its people and its country all of the best, and as Jacinda Ardern, our Prime Minister, says, stay safe and don't forget to wash your hands.
Muito bem, professor, e eu passo aqui em nome de muitos colegas, muitos profissionais que estão dizendo que o senhor já é mais do que convidado para vir ao Brasil. Eu já tive a honra de ter essa conversa com o senhor pessoalmente aí na Nova Zelândia, na sua sala, não foi? E o senhor sinta-se convidado, então, para vir ao Brasil assim que possível, não é? Assim que possível, vai ser uma honra para todos nós aqui recebê-lo. Então, acho que são as palavras de muito agradecimento, Ian. É isso, acho que nós encerramos aqui uma série de webinar com debates muito interessantes, inspirações muito importantes. Boa tarde. Inspirações muito importantes para a gente agora passar para a segunda fase da temporada aqui de projeto, de webinar, enfim, vai ser lançado como é que vai ser. Mas mais que isso, também colocar um pouquinho do aprendizado que a gente conseguiu obter dos diálogos em prática, né? Então, agora, por fim, fica aqui o meu muito obrigada a toda a equipe da Brastoa, a Mônica, as duas Mônicas, a Mônica Sâmia, a Quesan, o André, o Danilo, a Thaís, a Marina, que acompanha isso de perto, aos vice-presidentes Estela e Frederico, que participaram conosco, principalmente o Roberto, a Panrotas, todos os meus colegas no Laboratório de Brasília, a nossa coordenadora, a professora Helena, também o professor Elimar, todos os outros colegas que estão do Maranhão ao sul do Brasil, no exterior, aliás, é um grupo bastante diverso, que a gente trabalha de pesquisadores. A minha equipe na Amplia Mundo, a grande Mariana, que está aqui com a gente, a Érica, a Dani. Foi muita gente envolvida nesse projeto, mas com certeza acho que valeu a pena. Professor Ian, novamente, uma grande honra para a gente te ouvir, e muito obrigada. E que hora!
Que hora. Thank you very much.
Que hora. Então, eu convido, vocês três fiquem à vontade, por favor, mas então eu convido a coletivo Intérpretes para conversar conosco. sobre o trabalho que eles fazem, como é que funciona essa questão da tradução. Elas encerram agora, então, a tradução, tá bem?
Translation, okay, Professor?
Mm-hmm.
Or I can translate to you while she speaks.
Okay.
If you stay, well, but
I'll
you
stay.
have to leave.
I have to leave, do I?
No, you feel
Okay.
free. I'm here.
Okay.
If you stay, I translate. If you go, I won't.
I'm still here.
Okay, all right.
It's been a pleasure to work with you.
Okay.
Deixa
Tá
eu só
aberto,
entender.
querida, tá compartilhado, eu tô vendo.
Ah, então tá bom. Então tá com vocês. Ah, mas vocês estão aqui na sala.
Conseguem me ouvir? Vocês conseguem
Sim.
me ouvir agora? Aqui é a Cecília. Boa tarde. Vou abrir minha câmera um pouquinho.
Good afternoon. She's going to open her camera. And I'm going to open mine too.
So, bem, boa tarde a todos. Antes de mais
Good evening
nada,
to
nós
everyone. Before
agradecer
anything,
a
we would like
Brastoa,
to thank
a Rota da
Brastoa,
Universidade de
Rotas,
Brasília, Amplia
and
Mundo, pela
University of
oportunidade de
Brasília and
apresentar
Amplia
o
Mundo
nosso
for the
trabalho.
opportunity of
Aqui
presenting
nós
our
temos um
work.
grupo coletivo.
This is our
Somos
group
9
of interpreters. There are 9
bastante
interpreters,
experientes.
9 of us.
Ô, Flávia, eu acho que você tá na sala aberta, não tá? Você quer que eu te mando de volta para tradução? Pode? Desculpa, eu acho que eu te trouxe para a sala aberta. Eu fiz isso. Te mando? Ou fica aqui? Ah, tá mudo. Tá bom.
Tudo bem? Bem, então esse é o grupo coletivo Intérpretes. Somos 9 intérpretes com bastante experiência, todas membros das associações, tanto aqui no Brasil quanto internacional, e atendemos clientes aqui e fora. E a nossa ideia, então, de estarmos aqui é como podemos ajudar todos vocês. O mundo mudou muito, né, com a pandemia, todos os eventos hoje são virtuais, isso causou uma disruptura em todos os cenários, também quando as pessoas pensam em como convidar um palestrante internacional, como fazer uma mesa redonda, e o grupo coletivo já desde o final do ano passado, nós começamos já a estudar e procurar soluções, porque a interpretação remota já era uma realidade que estava começando a tomar um pouquinho mais de corpo, e com a pandemia nós tivemos que acelerar todo o nosso conhecimento, todo o nosso processo, e para que a gente pudesse dar o melhor suporte na escolha das melhores soluções técnicas para os clientes, dependendo, né, do tipo de evento, do tipo de participação do palestrante estrangeiro. E nós estamos dispostos e disponíveis a fazermos ensaios e ajudar o cliente a preparar todo o seu evento virtual. Nós queremos sempre ter uma comunicação que seja fluida entre os participantes, que eles possam interagir, como se eles estivessem em um evento presencial com a nossa ajuda, e que a nossa parceria seja real mesmo no mundo virtual. E quando nós falamos em eventos virtuais com tradução, nós precisamos sempre pensar, bom, qual é o tipo de evento, né? É um webinar, é uma reunião? Temos que também pensar e considerar em alguns pontos como a conexão, como é a qualidade da conexão, o áudio e vídeo para todos, do intérprete, do palestrante, do anfitrião, do co-anfitrião, e nós temos todo o suporte para poder ajudá-los, né? Pensamos principalmente em como vai ser a experiência do usuário. Nós queremos que esse usuário saia daquele evento virtual satisfeito, sem ter nenhum problema, sem enfrentar nenhuma dificuldade, e também pensarmos sempre em soluções integradas e otimizadas. E hoje, com toda essa correria que a gente tem no nosso dia a dia, também temos que pensar, será que a solução funciona no celular ou não? Então, para tudo isso, nós estamos dispostos e sempre presentes. Aqui continuamos estudando bastante para que a gente possa, então, oferecer e dar o melhor suporte a todos. E a gente sabe que no setor de turismo, há muitas viagens de incentivo, com visitas técnicas, onde a interpretação simultânea era usada. Talvez hoje algumas dessas visitas técnicas também sejam virtuais. Então, muito obrigada, aqui está o nosso contato, estamos presentes nas redes sociais e muito obrigada a todos. Foi um grande prazer poder estar com vocês.
Muito obrigada, Cecília. A gente vai mandar essa apresentação junto com a apresentação do professor Ian, ok? Professor, Flávia, posso te levar de volta para lá? Deixa eu tirar a Cecília daqui. Eu deixo a Cecília aqui, você vai, peraí. Foi, Flávia? Foi? Gente, aqui as tecnicalidades aqui da questão da tradução dos bastidores. Professor, eu disse que a gente vai, então, encaminhar a apresentação, né? O senhor permitiu que a gente compartilhe com os participantes e, junto com a sua maravilhosa apresentação, a gente manda também a apresentação do coletivo, que se torna cada vez mais uma ferramenta de trabalho para a gente aqui no mundo virtual. Então, encerrando aqui, com alguns minutinhos adiante, novamente um enorme abraço e nosso agradecimento gigantesco para a Marina, da Brastoa, que acompanha esse trabalho desde o início com a gente, a Mônica Sami, a Mônica Quezan, Danilo, André, Thaís, tanta gente. Mariana aqui com a gente, professora Helena, que fez a pesquisa, apresentou maravilhosa semana passada, Nayara, todos os nossos colegas do Let's, e a Dani e a Érica aqui também da minha equipe da Amplia Mundo. Então, nosso mais profundo agradecimento a todos vocês.
Deixa eu agradecer também a todos, a toda a equipe Brastoa, que nem você falou, você nominou um a um, mas eles são sensacionais. Eu acho que é um pessoal muito empenhado em fazer todo esse trabalho e tudo isso acontecer. Então, obrigado a você, a Jaque, por toda a mediação que você fez, Artur, pela parceria, estamos juntos, o que precisar, e o pessoal do coletivo e o professor Ian. Tchau para vocês e bom final de semana para vocês.
Bom dia, professora, aí na Nova Zelândia. Have a nice day. In beautiful Wellington. Is it sunny? Is it windy? Tá ventando aí hoje?
It's a nice day. So, but I'm about to take the dogs to the beauty parlor. They're going for a haircut.
Então tá bom.
Okay.
Vai levar os
And then we're
cachorros
going out. But thank
cortar
you.
o pelo, muito bom. Gente, um abraço. Muito obrigada a todos. Foi um prazer imenso. Um beijo. Tchau, tchau.
Potage. Thank you.